Welcome to the Creative and Ambitious Entrepreneur Podcast.
My name is Jen Clark.
And I'm Elke Clark. We are a mother-daughter team who started our Zazzle e-commerce businesses over 10 years ago and have sold over $15 million worth and counting of products on Zazzle with our designs on them.
We had so many people asking us how we did this, so we created the Profit by Design Academy, a 12-month coaching program where we will implement the 5 strategies we have used for success on Zazzle.
When we aren't coaching our amazing clients to reach millions in sales on Zazzle, we love cooking food from places all over the world that we've traveled to, jet setting to our next dream destination, spending quality time with our close friends and family, or having fun creating our next bestsellers in our own Zazzle businesses.
In this podcast, we share actionable steps you can take to make money in your online business using Zazzle. Each episode will take you one step closer to creating that perfect business, which will give you the freedom to live your dream life.
We believe that you can have anything you dream of as long as you work smarter, not harder. We're here to give you the tools you need to make your dream life happen. So let's get started. Well, hey there, it's Elke.
And Jen, and welcome to another episode of the Creative and Ambitious Entrepreneur Podcast. And today we are talking about Etsy versus Zazzle and the pros and cons of each.
It's going to be an exciting topic. We have a ton of notes because what we have found is that because we're coaches for the Zazzle platform to help people make money on the Zazzle platform so they can create an online passive income business. And we're, in the last little bit, have had a lot of people come over from the Etsy platform, in fact, even sometimes shut their store down and rather want to work on the Zazzle platform. So there's a change in what's happening on Etsy, and Zazzle seems more lucrative. But we still want, and we'll also connect you to our other episode that we did on the, what's the difference between Etsy and Zazzle and why Zazzle's better. In fact, that's episode 85, because we talked about the struggles of Etsy. And what we'll do is we'll add a link to the show notes so you can watch or listen to that episode as well. But in the meantime, here, what we're going to do is continue our series of Zazzle versus something, and allow you as the business owner who's trying to figure out where you want to start an online business so that you can create passive income and create a different life for yourself in this truly changing environment. Since we've had to go through COVID, now we're probably going to go into a recession. So you really have to be informed. And what we found is while you're looking for even the information to talk to you about this, even though we have personal experience, because we have Etsy stores, we found a lot of information missing for someone to really just get a clear idea as to what's going on. And so hopefully our podcast episode will help you make that a lot easier for yourself. And so let's get started.
Yeah.
Okay. So print on demand, and why is Etsy somewhat of a print on demand company and not really? And let's start there.
Yeah, so print on demand means that basically it's an e-commerce online shopping platform where the customer will buy a digital product. So they see a product in the digital space, and then when they buy it, then it becomes a physical product. That's why print on demand. And so once the order is placed, then the product is produced and then shipped out. So Zazzle is a print on demand platform fully, and Etsy can be somewhat of a print on demand. But when people think of Etsy, they think more about handmade goods and then also like digital graphics that you can download as is. We will talk more about how Etsy can use other print-on-demand platforms as like a fulfillment center so that you can sell in your Etsy store, but you're actually selling other print-on-demand products through your Etsy store. But Etsy as itself as a whole, if you're a designer or a maker, you don't really do print on demand unless that's part of your business model when you're selling and you have your own print on demand little mini process in your house or in your home office or in your office, right?
That was very well explained. Yeah. And print on demand this is the one time where we'll go into a little bit more detail on, like, some print on demands are really just fulfillment centers, right? So you as the seller are setting up your own Shopify store or your online, website, e-commerce, WooCommerce, that kind of thing, or you're using Etsy, for example, and it looks as if you're the, Wizard of Oz. You're like making it look as if it's all yours, but really behind the scenes, it's being fulfilled somewhere else, right? Through some other fulfillment companies. So those are also print on demand companies, because once the order is placed, then there's like usually some sort of electronic link or code that right away triggers an order on these more lesser known print on demand companies where people shop. They're more just print on demand because they're a fulfillment center for people such as people who have these Etsy stores or other ways that they're setting their online business up to sell something, right? And then so there's these two different ways. So Zazzle, Redbubble, Society 6, let's say even Minted, for example, even though that's not quite a print on demand, although it is in its how it's processed the orders. But all of these other ones are where customers shop, where some of the places where you get this print on demand fulfillment happening are ones that aren't so much a marketplace, they're just the print on demand part of it.
Yeah.
So that's hopefully a good explanation without getting too detailed. But now what we want to do is go into just comparing Zazzle to Etsy, someone who's trying to figure out their online business strategy and where they should be setting up their shop. Okay, so let's get started.
Right, so-
we have a ton of information for you, but we're using similar criteria that we've been using all along in our series through episodes 91, 92, 93, 94, and 95, where we're comparing all of these to the Zazzle platform as business opportunities.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go.
First of all, well, we were breaking it up into pros and cons. So one pro for Etsy is the selling of graphics. Like what Elke mentioned is that on the Etsy platform, graphics and or handmade goods that are your own personalized goods, right? If you are a maker, and let's say there's a lot of people who do handmade mugs or t-shirts, or they sew things, or they knit things, or handmade jewelry. Like Etsy is a wonderful platform if you are a maker and a designer and you're doing a lot of things with your hands and or creating graphics online with a graphic software program. So this is a really good pro for Etsy, is because on the marketplace, you're able to advertise these handmade goods, right? They come personally from you and they are your artwork, which is wonderful. And so people come to Etsy, and Etsy is so well known around the world, right? And we'll talk more about how many people are coming to Etsy in a moment per month, but it's just when you say the word Etsy, you already know it's a place for handmade goods and or designers and makers who come to sell their artwork, right? And you're getting that unique, one-of-a-kind type thing rather than going to a big department store and buying a t-shirt that, some big brand name made versus a handmade, unique piece of artwork slash accessory slash product. And so in terms of Zazzle, on the other side, Zazzle's print on demand. So it's not unique in the sense of it being made specifically physically by the designer, but the artwork or the design that goes onto the actual product is uniquely ours as a designer, right?
Yeah. So actually, in one sense, Zazzle's taking over the physical labor that you would typically have to do to put it on a mug or put it on a t-shirt, etc., if that's what you are doing physically to help generate the products that you're selling on Etsy. And then we want to just put one more thing in there, and I don't know if you've got that written in your notes, but there are actually opportunities to be on the Zazzle marketplace and be a maker.
Yes.
And that's, so again, it's kind of taking Etsy to the next level of selling through the Zazzle platform as a maker. And I believe that there's a lot less to worry about in terms of taxes and things like that, which is one of the big reasons why people are moving away from Etsy, because they have to deal with all the VAT and sales tax and things around the world. And I believe, just have to not quote me on this, but because you're selling through the Zazzle marketplace, Zazzle takes care of all that because they sell internationally. So that's a huge change. And even though you might have to pay a little bit to be on the platform in Zazzle as a maker, there's different set scenarios, and we're not makers, so we have to just get you look and see what the criteria are. But that is kind of a cool thing that Zazzle's actually moving into that area, so that it's creating a better environment for you as the artist to work on your creative stuff rather than just rote work that's just producing the things which anyone could do, right? It keeps you moving into your zone of genius where you are working on the creative, where instead of just fulfilling an order. Okay, awesome. Next option.
Yes. So the next one is ease of use. So this is also another pro. It's an easy to use platform, right? In terms of uploading your products and doing the listings. It's not easy to use in terms of like the design aspect of things. It's easy to use on the Zazzle platform because you're able to use it as basically a Photoshop fulfillment center to create your own products. ease of use in this sense for Etsy is that it's a very navigable, was it?
Easy to navigate?
Easy to navigate. I wanted to make it into an navigable website where you're able to find the listings, you're able to understand the whole platform. It's very user friendly, right? And they've perfected it over the years. Etsy has been around for a very long time, and they know that you have to make it easy for the customer and also the designer / maker to, use the platform. So in terms of it, the ease of use, you can learn very easily on how to create your store, how to put a listing up, etc. It's very step-by-step easy. So, and as well as the Zazzle marketplace, like they're both they both have those pros, right? It's easy to use.
And since they're basically comparing apples and oranges, I think it's the only common denominator is that based on what you have to do on each platform, it's easy to use.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the next pro that we have for Etsy is the number of potential customers. Etsy has a huge number of people who come to the Etsy platform every single month. It is 388 million people a month, or visitors a month. And this is getting that statistic from similarweb.com. The link will be in the description or in the show notes of this podcast and or YouTube video, and you can check that out for yourself. But Etsy gets a lot of traffic. And the only thing that Zazzle does not have in terms of what Etsy has at this point in time is that, traffic.
Definitely.
Zazzle has
17
million versus 388 million. So it's a very small percentage. So Etsy definitely gets the extra traffic, very much so, but you have to outweigh it in terms of how much do you want to put into the effort with Etsy and or the other cons that we're going to speak about in a moment. Either way, Etsy is a wonderful platform if you find use of it and you're getting that amount of traffic and you're building your brand and you love doing it. Some people will never shy away from Etsy because it's just their thing and they love it and their passion is fueled by it, right? But other people, as Elke mentioned previously, is that we have clients who loved doing the Etsy thing, but now they're realizing that they want a little bit more of a passive income and they don't want to be so hands-on with the customer service and creating the products. And so they're going to more print-on-demand platforms that are much more passive and that they don't have to be so much invested in their time with their business, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the first con that we have is, we mentioned this.
And, pros and cons, it sounds really weird when it's out of context. For me, the pluses and minuses, right? Pros and cons. So, just that we're going through all of these to help you understand what's the best positive things and what's the best, what are the negative things. And if you can overcome the negative, then that's great. But otherwise, these would be the things that would prompt us to say, well, maybe you should try Zazzle instead.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, then you go for this, the first one.
Oh, okay. So, we're looking for a business model that's very passive. So Etsy doesn't really feel like a good fit for us, except for unless we were creating digital pieces such as, downloadables or ebooks or something where you make it once and then it's a very simple transaction where when the customer buys it, there's no additional work involved on your part as a seller to create the product and then put it together in a package and ship it out and, walk to the post office and buy all the materials and actually create the product in the first place. So if that's all involved, then that's not our passive business model. But if you love that sort of thing, then maybe that's a pro for you, but consider your time spent and your profitability back. And if that, and the cost of materials, etc., and if that doesn't actually work out in your favor, then consider more of a passive income model. Like, as I said, digital products that you can easily just have on your Etsy shop and then let the customer download. And there's actually no extra transactional effort on your part after they make the sale. It's just a matter of a download and it's all set up initially once. And so that would be fine. And then the other thing is if there is a physical product, not a digital product that you want to sell, then this is where we come into that print-on-demand option that you can marry up and partner with in the fulfillment space, is that you can partner with some sort of print-on-demand supplier, whether that's in, the United States or in Europe or whatever. There's very specific suppliers that you can partner with that will fulfill your products based on whatever digital uploads you have in terms of your designs. And then they'll print it on something that the customer wants because you're selling that. And then they'll do all the, making, shipping, etc. for you. And so that would be the one way that you could switch it up so that the Etsy platform isn't just a very hands-on, labor-intensive option for you. Mm-hmm. Some of the things that we wanted to point out is, for example, some POD or print-on-demand suppliers in the United States that you could partner up with are Gearment Fulfillment, Printful, Custom Cat, Dreamship. And I think that would be something that you could consider so that you, again, stay in your zone of genius and you don't actually spend so much time just fulfilling the items for your shop. And the one reason that's so important that people want to move to more of a passive income is that it was a huge push and rush for Christmas, for example, and then it would be dead for the rest of the year in terms of transactional behavior. So your limit in terms of your profitability was your limit of how fast and how many products you could fulfill just before the Christmas season. And so that made a lot of our people that we've got now as clients in the Profit by Design Academy who are learning how to use Zazzle, that's what they really got stuck on. They realized they could never fulfill all the orders, and so they were losing money. And so they wanted a different opportunity and realized that Zazzle could be their fulfillment opportunity, right? And I didn't list Zazzle on there. It's so odd that people don't feel comfortable using that. Like, they don't see that Zazzle could be that. Just because it's set up a little bit differently, you have to create your own store and so on. But in the meantime, it could be your fulfillment option. You just have to set it up in a different way, and your customers that you have from your previous space with your emails and everything that you built up and worked on in Etsy, they can be traffic that can be driven to the Zazzle platform instead. So hopefully that makes sense and makes you realize, wow, this is an opportunity that I didn't realize existed.
Yeah.
And it can easily take away a lot of the stress and the worry and the extra time and the cost involved in running an Etsy shop can all of a sudden just go poof. But you can still make the sales on the Zazzle platform.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just wanted to jump in quickly. And for anybody who maybe doesn't know what fulfillment, what that means, it's more like you can use the print on demand platforms as, let's say, your merchandise store or your brand store, where you're outsourcing the work, you're creating the designs, but the actual platform does the work for you with printing, shipping and handling and all of those things, right? Because a lot of people, like younger generations, let's say, who are on YouTube and they're selling, buy my merchandise, and it's like they have their brand name on it, or they have a photo or whatever, they're selling merchandise to their fans or anybody who's on Instagram or social media. People are using, those Instagram influencers or YouTube influencers are using some sort of print on demand manufacturing company, not so much a platform, but a company that they contact, and they say, okay, you have to buy, 1,000 t-shirts and you have to sell them, right? Or whatever. So they're buying the bulk amount of the products. But what you don't realize, more or less, is that Zazzle can, or any of the other print on demand platforms can be used as the same way. It's that you just don't have to order those bulk orders, right? You can order one or two or three. It doesn't matter in terms of the amount. It's just now you can send your traffic to the Zazzle marketplace or any other of these print on demand platforms that could be used as, quote unquote, your fulfillment center or your merchandise provider, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and you don't have to order them, the customer orders
Yeah.
it. So it takes you out as the middleman.
Yep.
Have you heard about the Profit by Design Academy yet?
Are you looking for the perfect online business or side hustle that gives you monthly cash flow so you can live your dream life?
Are you a new or current Zazzle creator who is struggling to figure out how to make Zazzle work for you, worried that you're wasting your time and using the throw spaghetti against the wall to see if it sticks trick method, and unsure about how you can start and scale your Zazzle business?
Then the Profit by Design Academy is a perfect solution for you. You will feel confident, supported, and clear on how you will create a financial abundance side hustle using the Zazzle marketplace.
Imagine having access to the exact 5 strategies that we've used to build our Zazzle business and scale it, which we have sold over $15 million worth of Zazzle products so far with that method.
And that's not just us. We've helped our coaching clients in the Profit by Design Academy sell over $30 million worth of Zazzle products combined.
We invite you to join this incredible coaching experience where you receive the proven roadmap and hands-on support to accelerate your Zazzle business and make your dream of achieving passive income a reality.
Head on over to the show notes to grab the link, and we will see you on the inside. Or go to elkeclark.com/start-and-scale.
Now let's get back to the show.
Okay, so then the next one is cost. So Etsy actually has recently updated their terms and agreements for their payment policy and fees. It'll be taking place in one day from now. Today is technically April 10th while we're filming. And so April 11th, 2022, their fees and payments policy is updated. And it is going to introduce a couple of new things, which I'm going to outlay here. So I'm just going to read them off of my notes because it's a lot of information. So you'll be charged a listing fee of 20 cents US dollars for each item that you list on sale on Etsy.com and or Etsy's mobile apps. Etsy.com listings will expire after 4 months if they don't sell and or if you don't renew them. And if you list multiple quantities of the same item, so let's say you have a mug or whatever, and it's, you multiple different listings, the initial listing fee will be 20 cents, and then the listing will automatically be renewed at 20 cents after each of the items sells. So you're paying a fee basically every time that you list an item. And in comparison to Zazzle, Zazzle doesn't need you to pay a fee. You can post thousands of products in your Zazzle store for $0 and they don't expire. They might get hidden in the marketplace if people aren't viewing them as much.
But only after almost 2 years.
Yeah, but on Etsy, if you don't sell within the first 4 months, then you have to renew your item again, and it will disappear if you don't do that. So then also in terms of other costs, when you make a sale through Etsy.com, you'll be charged a transaction fee of 6.5% of the price that you display for each item or listing, plus the amount you charge for shipping and gift wrapping if that's included in your price point. If you sell from US or Canada, the transaction fee will not apply to sales tax, goods and service tax, or GST or HST unless you've included them in your charges for your listing on the price. Okay, I'm reading.
And that's really important because that's what a lot of the people who have transitioned from Etsy to Zazzle have realized is they spend hours and hours and months actually on doing their taxes to make sure that they get the sales tax right. And that's so difficult because it's complicated, right? It's not easy. You almost have to have an accountant to figure all that out.
Yeah, and I'm just reading on my other computer here. So it says if you sell from anywhere other than the US or Canada, the transaction fee will apply to the listing price, which should include applicable taxes, shipping price, and gift wrapping fee. And if you offer personalization for an additional fee. So you also have to be very careful because with Zazzle, you have to submit your tax information because you need it to be legitimate for if there's a tax treaty within the U.S. and with your country.
But that's just for getting paid out.
Yeah, getting paid out.
It has nothing to do with sales tax.
No, yeah. So this is very important in terms of the information with Etsy where they have mentioned this. But for us as Zazzle designers, we don't actually have to worry about this.
Any of this.
Zazzle takes care of that. And yeah, we don't have to worry about any of it.
Which I love, right? Just because it's making me nervous just having you read this here.
So
I don't know if anyone else is feeling the same way.
I know, it's just, it's a lot of information. So this one actually caught me a little bit off guard too. So Zazzle does external marketing. They pay for Google ads. They do other advertising elsewhere. So you'll be able to be found by customers through their marketing and external purposes that they do through promotion. Etsy purchases off-site advertising from networks of participating partners such as social networks and search engines, and this is in their policy that they've updated, literally word for word. If such advertising includes your listing and a buyer clicks on it and then places an order within your shop within 30 days of that click, you will be charged an advertising fee on those orders.
Holy smoke.
Which is referred to collectively as attributed orders and an individual attributed order. So, and then it has a long listing of how much money you've made and how much the price point is. So I won't get into that detail, but you should definitely, and we'll put the link to the updated policy in the show notes because you definitely have to read that. So there's a different percentage based on how much money you're making in your store and how many sales and how credible your store is. So you haven't even literally asked for your product to be shown on an ad, but if Etsy puts your product in an ad and that click was through the ad, then you actually have to get a cutback from your earnings because Etsy is now using your earnings to fund their advertising, which is what I'm understanding in this policy change here.
That's huge. Zazzle doesn't do that.
No. So it says also in terms of a cost too. So these were all the costs in terms of your fees that you had to pay for your listings. there's another option for you, but you have to sort of bypass or pay less, let's say. If you have a good standing as a designer, you can opt into something called Etsy Plus, which for $10 a month, you can have 15 listings without paying that 20 cents a listing fee. And then also you get $5 towards the ad spend that Etsy is using. So, I mean,
Oh my gosh, it's just so complicated.
yeah.
I hope it's worth it.
So that's the costs. And so, as I said, we're going to pop the link to that policy into the show notes because there's a lot of information there and we can't cover all of it within this podcast. And we definitely want you to read it over and look at it with your own eyes because we obviously aren't accountants. We can't give you financial advice and we're not telling you this is like exactly the way it needs to be. You need to read it yourself and understand it for your own business if you're on Zazzle, if you're on Etsy, sorry. Okay. So the passive in POD business model Elke already touched on is that
we've done that one.
you can use it for a fulfillment center. So the earnings potential. So you can set your own prices on the Etsy products. However, if your listing doesn't sell within 4 months, like I mentioned, it will disappear or you have to renew it. And then you also have to pay all those percentages of, the transaction fee and then the advertising fee if that comes through.
And everything that you've used to not only set up your store and promote, but also the materials, the time spent packaging things and sending them off to the post office, and the mailing costs, and any time you spent with customer service. That's a lot of costs. May not be all dollar-wise that you're paying out, but it's time cost, right? Mm-hmm. And that's where we just love the Zazzle platform because we don't have to do any of that.
Yep. Okay, so product availability. This is also a big one too. So products available on Etsy are literally the products that you physically make, right? So whether that be, as we mentioned, clothing, accessories, jewelry, knitting, sewing, artwork, whatever, and or graphics as well. So you're limited by your own capabilities in terms of what you can physically produce to post on the Etsy marketplace. Within Zazzle, the product range is limitless up to 1,500 products, and you can design on all of those 1,500 products using one design if you just wanted to, right? So you have the opportunity to explode your Zazzle store, while on Etsy, you're limited to, as Elke even just mentioned, your time, right? If you're making physical products, you can't make 10,000 mugs in one day. You have to make 10,000 mugs within a certain amount of hours. So you're limited by your physical capabilities of producing the products and also your time constraints.
And sourcing the products, because Zazzle has like a whole team that sources vendors that do nothing but print mugs or do nothing but print, shoes, etc. And so then you've got this huge team working for you, not only to source the products, but then to generate the products. Whereas, as Jen mentioned, you're doing it all by yourself and checking out, different suppliers initially to see what you can even print on. Mm-hmm. So that's a lot better on the Zazzle marketplace for sure.
Yeah. So then the next one is customization. So Etsy doesn't allow you to customize products per se unless you physically create a customized version. So you can have a listing on Etsy and say, message me for whatever, whether that be custom work, whether that be a physical product like jewelry or clothing, etc., or artwork and or graphics. Some people sell templates on Etsy as well using their digital graphics. However, that doesn't really, it's still working. You're still working for that customization. On Zazzle, you post the product once, you create your templates, and anyone in the world can customize that product without even speaking to you, right? On Etsy, you're still there working and changing or exchanging your hours for time and money given in or income coming in, right? So it is still, you are able to technically customize. However, the customization process is labor intensive.
Less profit. That doesn't sound good to me.
Yes. Okay, so the type of market / niche attracted. People who come to Etsy, they're looking for handmade, unique artwork, clothing, accessories, as I mentioned previously, and graphics, right? So it's a really great type of market because they want unique gift ideas, and people go to Etsy for all of those cool, special gifts, right? Which is wonderful. And so that's what people love about the Etsy marketplace. But however, it's not something that you can fully 100%, let's say, customize right on the spot. So the type of market that's being attracted, and as Elke mentioned before, we're comparing apples and oranges at this point in time, right? So the Zazzle marketplace customer is completely different than the Etsy customer who goes to the Etsy marketplace. The one thing is that you, the type of market that is attracted, it's a demanding market, right? You physically have to make the product, you have to ship the product, you have to deal with customer service. And so you're very much hands-on with the type of people who you're attracting in your for your store.
And even though there's an option as a maker on Zazzle to also be more labor intensive, because those are the things where people as makers create them just like they do on Etsy, there's other opportunities on the Zazzle platform to, like, for some of the generic things like mugs and t-shirts and things like that, for you to outsource that on the Zazzle platform to other printers rather than it being something that you do in your own house. And then the other thing, though, is that Zazzle is also known for its uniqueness, its unique indie designers, its ability to provide so much opportunity for you not only to find unique different products, but for the customization actually to go even further. Because even though the initial product may be already unique, then with that edit tool and the customization templates, you can actually, as a customer, make it even more so your own as a customer without even us as designers knowing what you're doing. And you can buy it and we still get a royalty. Whereas if the customer wanted to do that on Etsy, you would be involved, right? You would be, as a seller, you would be involved and they would tell you what to do and you'd have to fix it. Maybe you wouldn't be able to even fulfill that, but on the Zazzle platform, it just gets done. And I love that about it. Mm-hmm. Okay. And I think that's actually bringing it into design versatility, which is our last category.
Yeah. Basically, we've spoken about this throughout the podcast, but if the customer doesn't like it on Etsy, then they don't like it on Etsy because, if it's the way that you've made it or whatnot, it's not really customizable unless they reach out to you and say, I want this completely different or make me a custom order, right? But a lot of customers, no matter whether they're on Etsy or on Zazzle, is that they want the ease of the purchase. They want to have the easiest route possible. And so if they don't find something on Etsy that they don't truly like 100%, they're going to go and search in the search bar for the marketplace and find somebody else who offers the product, right? Unless you've built up that really strong brand recognition with your followers or your people or your customers, right?
Yeah, or have a lot of different variations, which, as Jen mentioned, they all cost money to list, right?
Yeah.
But then on Zazzle, I just sort of cut in there. Go ahead.
No, it's okay. You go for it.
Okay, so then on Zazzle, what happens is they already come to the platform knowing that they can play around and change things because the edit menu is fully accessible to the customer. And so, as we've mentioned in each one of our podcasts, we've sold things where we've started out with a certain template, which is like a lot of people love the template just the way it is. But then other people, because we've seen them, because people review our products and they post pictures of what their product looks like. And it's unbelievable because the product doesn't even look anything like what we originally posted as the design, but we still get a royalty.
Yeah.
And they're happy. They're like so excited that they love our product, which is, as you said, nothing like what. So, but that's the key to excessive income, because once you've got a customer locked in, rather keep them, rather let them do what they need to fix it so that it looks like they want, like what they want, rather than have them thinking, oh, this isn't exactly right, so they go and check something else out and it's not your product that they find. And so that's the key piece to profitability and increased revenue, which we love about the Zazzle platform. All right, so then how does Etsy compare? Do you want to just go and give a summary now? Or is there something we missed?
No. So the number of potential customers on Zazzle are 17.5 million, which we talked about, like 388 million versus 17.5 million. Obviously, Etsy wins on that one. But the earnings potential on Zazzle is very flexible in terms of that there's the royalty percentage that you can set. So you can set your royalty between 5 to 99%. As we said before, apples and oranges, right? On Etsy, you're allowed to set your price point at whatever you want as well, right? But you just obviously have to compete within the the Etsy marketplace. But if you're an Etsy designer who has very specific artwork or you're a high-end brand or whatever, then people are going to pay the amount of money that you're asking for because they want your product, right? So either one is wonderful on Etsy and on Zazzle as well. You can set your own royalty/price point. The product availability on Zazzle, we already spoke about. There's 1,500 different products blank product types that you can design on. And so this gives you the opportunity to choose different products rather than physically make those products. If I had to make 1,500 different types of products and learn how to sew shoes, how to sew tote bags, how to make mugs, it's just overwhelming, right? So on Etsy, you're limited to your own physical capabilities and your time constraints. And on Zazzle, you have sort of everything made for you right away. You just have to provide the design. Customization, we talked about. Customization is 100% on Zazzle for you and also the customer. The types of markets that are attracted or the niches that are attracted on Zazzle are anything and everything. So graphic design, artwork, photography, patterns, text designs, typography, monograms, occasions, photo templates, designers, custom works, whatever you can bring to the table within your designs, it is perfectly fine on Zazzle, and people are searching for that. And then the design versatility, you have everything that you're able to create on the Zazzle platform. You don't even need to have a fancy graphics program. Like people think, oh, I need Adobe Photoshop or Illustrator. No, you don't. On the Zazzle marketplace and platform, they have a tool that you can use, and it's basically like using Photoshop on their actual platform. So you can create beautiful designs without actually owning any sort of software on your computer. And so the design versatility is amazing, first of all, because you have those 1,500 products to choose from, and then also you actually have a design program, let's say, within the platform. So this is going to wrap up our podcast, but I just wanted to recap really quickly. So the Etsy, let's say, negatives or the things that we've seen that maybe you want to come over and join us on the Zazzle slide here is that it's different, right? If you're an Etsy fan, you're an Etsy fan. And if you're a Zazzle fan, you're a Zazzle fan. But hopefully we can give some light or shed some light to the Etsy makers and designers that there might be another opportunity for you to not work as hard and work less and work smarter. So
and be more profitable.
And be more profitable, yeah. And not having so many
yeah.
costs, right? Because that's the one big thing too, is that you're balancing your books. Like Etsy is actually much more complicated than the Zazzle platform in terms of understanding all of the different price points and where you're, spending your money and your expenses and your income, etc. So Etsy, you have to listing costs, like I mentioned, percentage of cutouts for ad spend or the transaction fees. You have physical inventory limitations based on your time and also your physical capabilities. Your digital graphics, even though they are digital and you think that they can be customized easily, you're still in that customization process and you're using your hours for monies earned. On Zazzle, the customization process is done without your knowledge. Like you just set up one template and you can have people customize it no matter what. And then in terms of just you earning your full income potential, you have no idea what you might actually get based on if they ad spend or if there's the transaction fee, etc. So there's a little bit more uncertainty. And then also the fact that you have to keep on renewing or updating your listings. Like if you had, imagine you had listings for every single Zazzle product that you own.
Like I have almost like $100,000 or 100,000 products. Like I couldn't possibly pay that for
pay
listing.
that and then also keep up to date and say, oh gosh, it's 4 months now that I posted that product. I have to go back and renew it. Because once you post a product on Zazzle, more or less, if it's still in the marketplace and being viewed,
Just swimming around
it's
somewhere.
there. You don't have to worry about it. So in terms of Etsy, there's a lot of upkeep, a lot of hours, a lot of, work for the profitability and then also costs. And it's not just, as Elke mentioned, monetary costs, it's, time costs. And so Etsy does offer a lot of really great pros as well. We're not saying Etsy's a bad platform. We love Etsy. We shop on Etsy ourselves. But in terms of a maker and a designer's point of view, there are some other options for you to use your time and your listings more effectively.
Right. Because we're always here to have a perceivable, passive, profitable business. And for us, especially the passive and the profitable, Etsy doesn't measure up compared to Zazzle in this case. So I hope that has helped you understand where you want to go with your business. And obviously it's your decision, but we'd love to see how you would like the Zazzle platform. And if you need help, you know where to find us.
Yeah. So thank you so much for listening to this podcast. And we will see you in the next episode of The Creative and Ambitious Entrepreneur. Bye.
Bye. Thank you so much for listening to the Creative and Ambitious Entrepreneur podcast with us, Jen and Elke Clark.
We hope this episode has given you actionable steps to building your online business that gives you the monthly cash flow you want while working less and living more.
If you've enjoyed this episode, please take a minute to subscribe, rate, and review the podcast. Each review helps us reach more entrepreneurs like you working to create a profitable e-commerce online business.
Follow us on Instagram at Ms. Jen Clark and at Elke Clark and DM us with your biggest takeaway from today's episode. See you back here next week.